Welcome back, everyone. We're here again on YouTube and LinkedIn with another exciting episode of the Top Innovator Series. This is where we dive into game-changing leadership strategies and we hear from the brilliant minds behind them. My name is Josef Martens, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. With us today is Dave Fazio. Dave is the CIO with Smith Douglas Home. Before that, he held tech leadership roles with various other organizations, and we're thrilled to have him with us. Dave, it's a pleasure to have you in the conversation here.
Thank you for having me here.
So, Dave, leadership is our topic, and you're clearly successful as a leader in technology, as an executive in technology. When you reflect on your own journey, when you look at your own growth and evolution as a tech leader, what do you think made you successful? What are the ingredients for your success?
Well, I have to admit, I have reflected a bit on that. I have had a really nice trajectory across 30 years of working in technology. And the one thing actually, there's maybe more than a few things, but one of my secret sauce, so to speak, of making an impact and having those doors open into leadership is having sympathy with the business objectives, meaning that at the very least, appear as though you happen to care about where the business is going and how it's going to get there. In IT and technology, it's more than taking a spec and like developing it. As I started off in developing, it's actually understanding why they're asking for the specification and then sympathizing with them and collaborating to give them more than what they asked for. And so I've always been interested in business outcomes. Like you hear that term used often a lot, but there's a reason. It's because if you have an employee or a team member that is fiercely interested in how to improve the outcome and not sit on the status quo, find ways to improve and just don't say it's good enough, you usually end up standing out as somebody that can be trusted and relied on for those big decisions that end up getting you noticed. And then also, I did work a little bit more. I mean, it's hard to say this, but it's absolutely true. Worked a little bit more hours than the average employee.
Okay.
Now, there's pros and cons to that, and there's some sacrifices made in my personal journey for the professional successes that I have had. But there is a little bit of that desire and interest to make an impact that that has it so that I had no choice. I was just compelled to put in the extra hours. It's interesting. That is a whole rabbit hole discussion of as I get older, I look at that differently for myself
Interesting.
and
Okay.
don't put in the extra hours anymore. And I seem to still be doing fine as well as my career goes. So that's kind of wonder about that, but yeah, I mean, it's like I look at it. I heard once that somebody said if you work 10% harder, care 10% more, that's all you need to do to start getting that incremental. And you know what? I don't know if I think I kind of agree with that. I'm not saying shoot for 10% more,
Okay.
but it doesn't take much to make an impact over the law of averages. And so those are a few items that come to mind. And then it is amazing how much you can get away with if you do two things. You're easy to work with and you communicate well and set
Wow.
expectations.
Mhm.
If they like you, you can mess up quite a bit and there'll be forgiveness all day long. And if you communicate, that sort of staves off dissatisfaction. So in technology, you don't want the customer, the business user, whoever, coming to you asking for updates. And if there is bad news, be forthright and lay it out. Don't hide anything. They're amazing. People are amazingly forgiving, at least in relatively healthy or more than healthy environments. If you communicate with them and you sympathize, that you
Yeah.
understand that it's important and you're easy to work with, you will likely stave off the inevitable rifts and reductions and the
Mm.
ebbs and flows of hiring and letting go that happens that every company and everybody, every career has experienced. I ended up I think almost every time, except for one exception during the dot-com boom boost, the dot-com bust, excuse me, that I didn't make it. That was because the whole company was essentially falling
Yeah.
apart. But I've
Yeah.
always been able to stave those and be on that side of we want to keep this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you said when you're easy to get along with, it's amazing how much you can mess up. I was wondering if
Oh
there's a
yeah,
great
you agree?
story. There's a great story behind that, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So if
Yeah.
it's itching under your fingers to start telling the
Uh,
story, I'm not going to
well,
stop you.
there's actually Joseph, there's more than a one, but there are quite a few. But I would just say that when you do and mistakes inevitably happen,
Yeah.
you can apologize for them. You can, but to be honest and show demonstrate what you're doing to get back on path. So
Yeah.
don't just say the sky is falling and then leave it at that.
Yeah.
Come with a solution, and then do not blame others. And so, actually, in
Mm,
leadership, what I found is as my organizations grow, I end up finding that the responsibility is really on me, and I
mm,
will never throw sort of like a subordinate or a team member under the bus. It's my responsibility,
yeah.
and I actually tell when I walk into organizations, I tell them that we are all in this together, and I am here to be the fall guy for the mistakes that will inevitably happen. I only ask of the teams that they learn from them and they try not to make the same mistake twice.
Don't make the same
Yeah,
twice.
because
Mm,
then
mm,
it's a true mistake. Like
mm, mm,
sometimes the journey to success is it's not always linear. It's not only one step forward. You learn what you didn't know, and that could be a step back or two. That's certainly the case in software development. I'm sure that's the case in many other types
mm,
of leadership roles. Sometimes the step forward includes a step back. It's the learning and the process. So that's going to happen. And what the team needs is the support from their leaders, not to be thrown under the bus or disciplined. Now, if it's of course, if it's a vagrant or some type of unethical or immoral decision that somebody made, and they need to be reprimanded or
sure.
uh, put in a performance plan or whatever the case may be, that's different. But what I'm saying is there's going to be the time when the database is erased, the backups don't
Yeah.
work, the software's is rolled out with a critical error. That just happens, and
Yeah.
very good, healthy communication and support of the team to learn and grow. And how do we fix this for next time? Is a healthy way to persist through that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was something else in what you shared about your ingredients for success, where it struck me how you phrased it. I've had several people say that understanding the business objectives is important or knowing what the business needs. And I was struck by you phrasing it as having sympathy for the business
Mm,
objectives and caring for them. There is an
mm.
extra level in there, right? There is a level of emotional connection in there as well. Say more about that.
Well, that there's an aspect of my personality. As you go through and you take your personality tests, I am one of those wanting to please types.
Okay.
And so I care. I look at a business as a professional family, for lack of a better way to phrase it, where this company is funding the adventures of multiple families and people that are involved in it.
Mm,
It is helping people go to college, buy homes, pay their bills,
mm,
put food on the table. And any time that I can contribute to the safety and security of that, I get a
mm,
big thrill out of it. And so the whole business as a whole is like that. We're all in
yeah.
it together, trying to survive and make something of ourselves, whether it's provide for our families or prove something in one's life from a career perspective or whatever the case may be. But it's important. And so I look at business ventures as a super important aspect of somebody's life and how they contribute back to society. Now, home building is
Mhm.
especially noble when you look at the macro benefits of building a home. There's a series of tradesmen. There's the construction. There's raw materials. There's the assembly. There's the house itself. The furnishings that go in the house. All the electricity and services that are paid for by the homeowners, and then the appreciation and the value of the home going up over time. It's like a net positive on a macro scale across the board. Home building is exceptionally noble and very healthy for the economy and for everyone really involved in it. So I get a lot
Yeah.
out of working at a home builder
Mhm.
because I'm helping delight our customers and thus enrich them in many ways.
That's a great way to put
So,
the context around your business and give it a solid values basis. Yeah.
yeah.
We talked about the past of your leadership journey, Dave. I'd like to shift focus onto the present. And this is not a question about roles or organizations. Still a question about your leadership growth, your leadership journey. When you look at where you are today, what is an area where you think there is a next level possible? Where do you think you can take your next step in your growth as a leader?
Well, let's see. I'll answer that and where I can. Well, there's multiple paths. There's multiple
Okay.
answers there. So I'll try to find the one that I'm the most interested in. Um, the As you climb up the ladder, what I find is that um, effective diplomacy is a
Mm,
very valuable skill uh, because everyone has their objectives and what they want to accomplish, and of course, I want to accomplish something as well. Sometimes it's in contrast with other people. Being better at being a diplomat where everyone feels good about the outcome, even if it's differing opinions, is where I'm really focusing on today. I think the more effective diplomat, for the lack of a better way of putting it, is a invaluable skill to affect change. And so I experiment with it. I try different techniques of persuasion, really, or bargaining or compromise, and it's one of those three usually. And I feel
very
as though
cool.
I'm doing
Mhm.
pretty good, yeah, but we'll see.
So you're really intentionally experimenting with
Oh yeah,
the skill. Okay,
100%.
very
So
cool, very cool. When did you realize that this is a skill that you want to develop? Is this something that you've known for a very long time, or is this something that you stumbled
no,
over more
it is
recently?
something that so coming up through the organizations, I've
Mm,
had good managers and bad managers, and so the step one was contrasting how do I like my work environment with a what I would consider an ineffective manager or an effective manager. It's so interesting because I could work at the same company, have the same job, but have a manager switch on me or
mm,
superior of whatever grade, and the company will either become awesome to work for, like beyond what I've thought before, or it'll become unbearable and I'll have to leave because of ineffective management. And they're
mm,
usually clueless if they're ineffective. So I look at what is the main key drivers of an ineffective manager and what do I want to do in contrast to that. And it's really theory. What I'm thinking is because like there's different with people rank management styles. There's like fear and anger, and then there's like command
mm,
and control, which is like really authoritative, and then there's trust and inspire.
mhm.
And the Trust and Inspire, that was a Stephen Covey book, and I met Stephen Covey. He talked about it, and that's in my opinion sort of in the theory because theoretical, because I've tried trusting before, just straight up trusting, and then sometimes people take advantage of that, and
Right.
so it's ineffective. So then you're trusting but verifying, and trying to aspire while you're verifying. So it's very much, I don't really think that anyone really has it worked out quite yet. And then you hear about the magnets, the Elon Musks, and you hear about the Steve Jobs and the anecdotes of working for those people. And they are very much command and control and a little bit of fear in there. But they're also at the very top. They were arguably the very tops of their games. And then I worked at Amazon for a little while, And Bezos was still at the realm. He did his town halls. I got to see him do his town halls, and he was completely pleasant and logical and reasoning, and it's all about the data. And we're all working together to try to build the future and all that. So I've seen positive, healthy sort of relationships with employees be just as successful as like the authoritative and
Mm,
commanding. And so I'm trying to figure out my way and how I fit into it through experimentation. And the one thing that's hard for me, and it's probably hard for a lot of people, is it's hard for me to judge how I'm coming across in the organization.
yeah.
I'm very good at like analyzing other people's presentations and other people's overall brand, if you could say, very bad at myself. So
Mhm.
the only thing I do is instead of looking at myself and my behavior, I really focus on um, how others are reacting to me, and I use that as a guide. So is the net result is I'm getting am I getting this person on my side who originally didn't like me for whatever reason, or I maybe said the wrong thing and started off on the wrong
Yeah.
foot. So I'm able to win her over, not looking at my actions, although I'm trying different things, but looking at their responses and adjusting to what I'm saying from there. So it's an experiment that I don't know the answer to yet.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Not easy to get a real sense of that. And the way you describe it, it's an indirect way of figuring out how
Indirect.
we're coming across. Yeah. Let's take a look at the future for a moment, Dave. What do you think does the future of leadership hold? What changes in leadership do you think are coming we have to deal with and get ready for?
Um, that's a good question. I think about Steve Jobs.
Mhm.
He had a the Stanford speech, and most people have seen that online where he talks about this is going to sound grim at first, but I have a point. Death is a great change agent
Mhm.
because people they grow up with their prepositions of how reality works around them, what are the standards and norms of what's going on around them, and inevitably they get biased and they live in the realm of their upbringing. So
Mm.
I'm a child of the 80s. I like, new wave music. I like all those stereotypical things from the 80s. I don't like the new music so much. So that's just in art and music, but it's also in everything, whether I realize it or not. So if it's choices of furniture or what I wear or the car I buy, it's all influenced on my upbringing and where I
Yeah.
came from. Now, just so happens that right now, this age that I'm in my mid 50s, it's there's a lot of people that are kind of running the world at this age, but it won't be long before the younger generations will come up and they have a different sensibility and they have a different focus. For example, when I was at Amazon, I learned this one metric that I would never forget, and that is millennials or younger generations, they prefer to self-serve. They don't want to go and be served. They don't want to go to, for example, buy a car with a salesman.
Okay.
They don't actually necessarily even want to go to a doctor directly.
Mhm.
They would rather do some type of self-service, self-diagnostic than interface with people. They don't want to go shopping. They want to go on Amazon. They don't want to go in malls.
Instacart
Now
or
that's
so.
very
Mhm.
different. What's that?
Instacart maybe do something like
Yeah,
that.
Instacart, right. They'll
Yeah.
do Instacart,
Mm.
and that's exactly right. And another good example of that is, and there's a reason I'm saying this, is that so I drive a Tesla and it self-drives. Now I'm just such a geek. I love it, so I use it. But my wife, who's a relative, is a little younger than me, but in my sort of generation, she refuses to have the car drive. It's just too crazy. Like there's no way we're gonna let a car take us from point A to B. And so that is the result of her upbringing, of what reality she grew up in, and she's
Mm.
reflecting it
Interesting.
today from the past. So I have the same blind spots of the future. I am still relevant to some degree because
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm
Mm.
doing now, relating and effectively relating to the world in a way. But what the future brings, and I look at a few things. The social politics and the aspect of all those. sort of social liberal sort of mindsets that are they're growing in popularity. I don't really relate to that. I respect it, don't really relate to it, though. It's not in my priority list. The wanting to be self-diagnosed with a bot, or at least initially diagnosed with a bot, with a health bot, than a human, is not something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Buying a house without seeing it, just looking at pictures,
Good
which
point.
is a growing trend,
Yeah.
is something that I wouldn't do. So I would do the auto driving though. That's where I'm different. But a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people wouldn't. My father certainly wouldn't. He's in his 80s. There's no way he's interested in it. He thinks it's really cool. He would never do it.
But wouldn't do it.
And the kids of the future are going to be looking at AI bots,
Yeah.
getting diagnosed, at least initially. They're going to be buying their houses online. They're going to be they're acting and reacting to the world based upon
Mm.
their time. So what does the future bring? I'm not sure, and it may not matter, because I'll retire and
Okay.
new
Okay.
generations will come in and they'll
Yeah.
do it. I can only speculate around the marvel of what's happening right now with technology and
Yeah.
AI, but it's going to be quite disruptive, as everybody has said, and it's going to change job titles and roles, and people's jobs will change. But um, the future of leadership, I think, is going to have to be perhaps more compassionate than I'm used to, more sensitive than I'm used to. But it's all speculation. I'm not sure. I mean, it is odd, it is odd to when I went to Amazon for the first time. And keep in mind, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just being frankly stating, when I did the EEOD, which is the, are you a veteran? What's your gender?
Okay.
Are you disabled? And the gender had 12 different genders. That's I respect that. I do. It's just not I don't understand it. Like, I honestly just don't understand it. And that's just, I'm going to call that a blind spot. And I'm going to say that there are other blind spots that, as the culture evolves around me, I won't have real connection to.
Yeah.
And eventually I'll retire, and the new generation of leaders will come up and bring that with them. And then they'll have their own set of things that the younger generation's coming up with that they don't connect with.
Yeah.
It's just the cycle.
That's the
It's the
cycle.
great
Yeah.
change agent that
Yeah.
Jobs was talking about.
Yeah. Very true. Dave, let me ask you a last question and then we'll land the plane. Imagine the tech leaders that you know in all the companies that you've worked or in companies that you've heard of, and you could change one thing about how many of them lead their organizations. You had a magic wand. You could do something about the way other tech leaders lead.
Mhm.
How would you change it? What would you do?
Share the wealth.
Say more.
It was
Say
when
more
I
about that.
share
Okay.
the wealth, share the wealth of that your company generates. I would say this, like, people have heard about the wage gaps and
Yeah.
the delta between the leadership and the rank and file. And when I bridged that, it was the early 2000s when I got into that level, and it was disproportionately much more enriching for leaders. And it's not really fair. Honestly, it's not fair. It's just the way that we are positioned right now, as the leadership seems to keep most of it for themselves. There's plenty of room to share it and everyone live happier
Mm,
lives. They just aren't. That's just not the pattern right now.
yeah.
And since the early 2000s, it's become an even greater. So even higher
Yeah.
up on the level, they get
Yeah.
even more, and less down below. I'm not exactly sure why that's happening, but I mean, you can guess, but I don't want to read into other people's. I don't know why the trend is the higher you go, the more disproportionately wealthy they get, to the point now where it's ridiculous. Like, nothing against Elon Musk and whatever he can do for himself, but
Mm,
he's on track. I read an article to be the first trillionaire. Like,
yeah.
is that necessary? Is it necessary to be worth trillions? And I would, I would have a moral sort of introspection on that one to see, okay, what can we do that's enriching more people than just myself,
Yeah.
and to the point where you can't even possibly imagine to use it all. Again, I like Elon. I do like a lot of what he's done. Of course, everyone has complex pros and cons, but that's a little crazy. Like I want them to, we should share it. And then
Sharing.
one other
Hmm.
example to
Hmm.
that is I was in a company once years ago where it filed for restructuring, and what they normally do is they petition with the judges a bonus plan to retain employees, because what you don't want to do is have people leave when you're trying to
Hmm.
restructure. And this company did a bonus plan restructuring only for directors and hires. Everyone
Hmm.
else they didn't care about, and that was abnormal for the time. Usually, it's spread across key individuals across all levels, but it was a greedy grab. There was more money to give to the directors and above than to spread it out across the entire employee base of critical employees, and they kept it secret. They kept it secret, which is
Yeah.
I have issues with that.
Yeah. I get it. Dave, thank you so much. Been a real pleasure having you in the conversation.
Thank you so much for calling me today. Appreciate it.
To everyone else out there, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, join us again for our next episode. And until then, keep your brain cells active.